Farming is difficult. That's the reason very few people do it anymore. Less than 2% of the folks are growing our food in this world, and you're part of that. We're going to have to find some growing methods that are more conducive to profit, certainly to reducing labor whenever we can, to improving quality. There are products being made available right now that are made out of plant-based. The two that I know are made out of corn-based. Biodegradable is exactly what it says. There's nothing in this that's not an organic substance. The good thing about them is they do end up as an organic base again. There's not anything in them that's synthetic, but for now, much of our need is going to still have to remain with plastic. When we start combining drip irrigation with plastic, the plastic mulch itself, when we start combining row covers with that, when we start combining and putting with that high tunnels, all of a sudden we've gained a great deal of control over our environment. Certainly reduce soil-borne diseases, particularly in a high tunnel. Once we create that arid type environment where we don't have any rainfall coming down on the leaves of our plants, we've created an environment where disease has very little possibility of taking hold. In the midst of this, we can control our seasons, and that's probably what we need the most of. What I like about drip is the safety is that it's not going over your plant. The most difficult thing with drip irrigation is getting clean enough water. Algae is the primary problem in drip systems. So municipal, even that, we would like to have at least a screen filter on it. And you could wash that out probably once a month, and that's all you need in a municipal system. And probably the same thing with a well. But once you start getting to surface water, that's a totally different story. You're going to have to start talking about sand filters. And sand filter is nothing more than what you use or some of you use on your pools to clean them. You're going to have quite a bit more buildup in the sand filter quicker. They have to be back flushed. If I was going to put water on it all, I'd rather have it in the drip system going at the root, just a little bit under the soil, than I would being sprayed over top of my plants. Most of the time with a well or municipal or with a pump, we're starting with at least 40 or 50 pounds of pressure. That's way more than you need for drip irrigation. So you're going to need a pressure reducer. That low pressure is the reason you're only needing just a small amount of water in order to water that plant. Again, it's going right on the root systems as close as you can get to where it needs to be. Whereas if you were doing that with an overhead irrigation, you would have spent a few $1,000s the first year just trying to keep a little water on your plants. These are just pressure reducers. If you were coming from 40 pounds to your 10 pounds you wanted, this one's for a smaller system. It just, once it goes through there, it's now going into this line at the 10-pound level or close to it. This is for a larger system where you want to do an acre, 2 or 3 or 4. Exactly the same principle. These can be adjusted. They have springs in them. These are basically for commercial use. If I know where I want my holes, and it can be, particularly if I'm doing a double row, it can be, again, if you're off just a little bit, I can start punching holes through my tape. So if I know where I want my holes and want them in there already, I'll drop this down with a chain, and these spikes will make a hole every 12 inches, and that will be my planting holes to plant whatever method I use for planting. Or synthetic fertilizers through the drip irrigation. There's ways to inject into the drip irrigations. Again, we're putting just the amount that we need feeding these plants, and it saves you money as well as it certainly is better for the environment. If you've got a cloddy soil, I would consider putting 2 drip tapes in. Anything to make sure you're not be fighting that battle the rest of the season. Almost always each field needs to be adjusted. A contour is going to make a good bit of difference with laying plastic. So when Glenn is steering out here with these wheels, well, he's changing what's going on back here with what wheels I'm talking about are these. These are the ones that will come off the plastic and slip, and then you're done for until you start again. So a little bit of a twitch up here can make several inches of twitching back here. This machine is not magic. It can't take bad soils in the sense of poorly worked soils and make that into a good growing media. So. Making a bed, we're packing it down with a packer plate, We're running a drip irrigation through underneath that, burying it at least an inch or two. We now have started our plastic will be rolled out and come under this bar. It'll be under these wheels here. When we start doing that, it'll hold and stretch it tight. This is only pulling up about a 4-inch bed, and that raised bed. Anytime you can gain an advantage for root systems and for being a little farther away from your water table, you're always better off. Particularly if you're trying to get an earlier crop, the aeration, it's going to be a looser soil. 4 inches is probably about as low as you get. This is a fairly small machine. Commercial growers will sometimes go 7 or 8 inches up to a foot or so. And what we want is a good solid packed bed. It's going to be doing various jobs at one time. The drip irrigation tubing is going to go down, and where I'm probably going to put it in the center of the row, about 2.5 inches deep. With a drip irrigation, we can irrigate pretty much the top bed that we'll be putting down here with one drip tape.